We are supposed to be doing a little bit of super dungeon building today, and we should get back to that. But I will say, look, if you want me to do streams where I just pull up old like RPG books from my collection and I go through some of them for some of the cool stuff that they put across, I will gladly do that. Like weird and obscure TTRPGs is kind of my jam. Like I will do a page by page read through of Nova. Don't yeah, I will do this. And just being able to hang out with chat, I also enjoy that a lot. Because, quite honestly, I enjoy this stuff way too much. I should put in a hydrate redeem. I should also put in a couple of channel point redeems. They will be added. Yes, I do have my breakfast smoothie with me that I've been drinking. But, thank you for hanging out, Vec. I hope I got to show you some cool stuff. My apologies to your wallet. I will say the bestiaries for Anima and the actual world book that they have will keep you going on ideas forever. But we have delayed long enough because you caught me monologuing. And we have talked a little bit of the remaster. We can keep talking about that, but I do actually want to get into the whole Superdungeon thing. And I will put it on the to-do list to maybe organize some, like, a regular stream where we can just talk about, like, weird and old TTRPGs. Or not even old ones, like, newer ones that most people haven't heard of. Like, I'd love to talk about Hedge at some point. No, don't. Now, for those of us who weren't here last week. No, I don't want to bring up the Hero Quest board. For those of us who were here last week, this is where we ended things. We had finished building our Foul Encounter for the Yellow Musk Creeper, and we were getting ready for our mid-dungeon. Yeah, Kilcrow, you're back just in time. So this is where we left it, and the idea was that we had Thrall spread out across the place, because this is what it looked like in Foundry. And they were ready to ambush the player as soon as they entered. So, what we want to do is, now that we have our thralls all set up, we want to build a mid-dungeon. So we want a new one. And A4 paper is 8 by 11. Yep. Now, for our mid-dungeons, for our bosses, we want to make it a little bit bigger so people have a lot more space to move in. So instead, we're going to go 16 by 11. See, now I'm just making sure that we got it right. Yep, 16 by 11. And cave. Now, we already have an idea of what our boss encounter is going to be. our players are going to be fighting an actual yellow musk creeper. So the actual flowering part of it. Now, for those of you who aren't aware of it, that is what it looks like. And I really wish YouTube would stop stopping the music. That would be great, thanks. And it's just a plant. It doesn't really move. It can move up to 5 feet, but my plan here is not to make it actually move at all. So, what we want to do is we want to create an environment in which the plant will be at its maximum. That won't be something that the players trip over. That'll be something that will be a challenge for the players to actually deal with. Now, from one of our earlier maps, we messed around with the idea of verticality for a dungeon encounter. So having the minions up at a higher cliff point from where they can attack the player characters as they come in. I kind of want to do that again. So, but first, let's get our base point in. And then grab the water. I want some of this area to be enough room for the players to safely stand on. Just a quick check, I'm going to see how big it is. Now, rules is written, a yellow musk creeper is only medium sized. I'm going to screw around with that a little. I'm going to make it large size because I feel like boss encounters, particularly against bigger creatures, I feel like they should be against bigger sized targets. It just kind of works that whole triumphant feel for the players a little bit more. Don't want a scatter tool. I know what I want. Oh, where is it? Pop tool. And to grab the cliff. That. Do I think about the ceiling at all, or is that too confusing or abstract? I think usually what I will do, particularly when I'm writing a full floor for a dungeon, is I will have something at the beginning, and Paizo does this as well, where I will point out specifically, hey, so all the caverns in this dungeon is about 10 to 20 feet tall. So you'll have a ceiling at the, like that 20-foot point, and I'll describe something like it's covered in stalagmites, so players can kind of jump to and fro, or creatures can conversely hide amongst it. But when things change, like for instance with here, I may have fucked up. Just a wee bit, but we can fix that. But yeah, when it's a specific room like this one, where there's kind of this requirement for it to be nice and big, I will say, for instance, it's a more expensive cavern. I'll have it in the counter notes that, hey, this is about 30 or 40 feet tall instead. Now, because I did do a little bit of a whoopsie-doo, in a cavern with funky foliage, you could have vines all over the roof with angry plants here and there, but on the game board, that would just be a bunch of enemies with high marked. Pretty much. If you want to have something I do want to talk about, and I think the Pathfinder 2 community has started to latch onto, which I absolutely fucking love, is the idea of environmental hazards, or what are being commonly referred to as lair hazards. So the idea is that this room, if we really wanted to dig into it, you could have a general hazard going on where it's like, if you're up in the roof, there are plants and stuff like that. Every round they will attack you. It'll be a reflex save, they do X amount of damage. Instead of having a bunch of different creatures at different heights marked. At some point, I want to do a bunch of videos for YouTube, but one of the ones I really want to do is how VTTs can be used as a storytelling device to create immersion and depth in your games. Like, for a lot of it, most of us, myself included for the longest time, were just like, well, a VTT is just a vehicle to do this hobby that we love. But the more that I run it on stream, and the more I have people and players joining my games and experiencing it, the more I'm kind of bending over to this thought pattern that VTTs allow you to tell stories within TTRPGs that you normally would not be able to. There are things that you can get away with that you absolutely couldn't on the regular game board. Yes, it is a tool like any other. But I think a lot of GMs are underestimating how useful it can actually be for their games. If you're good at map design, you can do unspoken storytelling. Abso-fucking-lutely. There's a Chepeku. They do this really well, where they will have, particularly for their dungeon maps, they will have locations where it's just like, they have a chest there. And with the chest there, the GM can instantly go, well, okay, that's where I put treasure. And the map that my players are currently going through, which is a Serpent Temple, they have... It's a treasure chest across a chasm, so it becomes a skill challenge to figure out how to get to the chest. Katz says, also curious, this Superdungeon, do you have a narrative for it? Or rather, if you've already explained it, would you again? Currently, I don't have a full narrative for the dungeon. Currently, what we are working with is the idea that this is a shallow water dungeon, so some swampy environments and stuff like that. The more overarching thing that I eventually want to do is something similar to what we're getting now with roguelikes, where it's a kind of extra planar dungeon. I'm after a waterfall. Pilcroto says, honestly, using Foundry has made me consider line of sight in ways I never did before, and it can be tricky to transfer that to real play. Absolutely. I'm guessing LOS means line of sight. I was just assuming, sorry. As someone who, for the longest time, pretty much ran all my tech maps on a, like, just a bit of grid paper and did, like, the pencils and markers on a board, that kind of thing. When it comes to environmental storytelling, Foundry, in particular, has really opened up so many more concepts for me. Planar stuff is great. I've been thinking about a dungeon like this because of Abomination Vaults, because there's certain things in the lower levels that I've been very interested in the idea of the ecology. Yeah, no. In my Abomination Vault stream that I'm doing, they're onto level 9 now, and they're dealing with multiple different social groups and having to deal with Belcor's impact on the whole area, because they've gone past the idea of this is just a tower, where they've actually breached into the Darklands, where the tower has actually crossed over into other people's land, and some of the ideas and the concepts that are around that are very interesting. That said, some of the concepts and ideas I really don't think I'm equipped to handle. How everything in there lives together, yeah. Like the bar, the devils who don't really want to be there, rogue monsters, and just nearby creatures, yeah. Because Belcora dropped a lot of stuff in there, but she hasn't been doing much with the Abomination Vaults for quite a long time. And in her absence, the wheel keeps turning. Ninzad. I'm running AV for my friends and I've been trying to squeeze in all kinds of planar stuff. As you absolutely should. I will be the first one to say that I've ignored a lot of the side quest stuff that Abomination Vaults has in there pre-written. I've just completely ignored a lot of it. And I've done my own side quest type stuff. Because as much as I love the dungeon itself, I believe the Abomination Vaults as it stands acts more as a vehicle to the adventure that you're running for the players. You have the overarching plot of they have to go and find Belcora and take her down once and for all. But what happens between that end point and how they begin, that's kind of up to you and the players. And if you want to fuck around and do stuff with the planes, or expand out into Atari, or to, I believe it's the Fenfold, or the Fogfend, which is the forest that goes around it, dig into what's happening there. Or the swamp. I've had my players go into the swamp and talk to the people there. Despite being in Dungeon Crawl, it is so easy to introduce so many RP encounters. Yep. Yep. So many of the severe ghost encounters that people complain about, you can literally just solve by talking to the ghost. Like, there's an encounter in there where you fight a librarian ghost, and you can just leave. Like, you can literally just walk away. And the librarian doesn't pursue you. It's just like, I'm just here doing my job. You're the one who started the fight. And yeah, inside the nature of the place itself lends to a multiple canvas. And I think that's what Paizo was going for. Like, they needed something that would integrate well with Atari. But at the same point, with a lot of the concepts that they deal with and a lot of the concepts that are in there, you can screw around with a lot of different things. Object tool, because I need bushes. Because this is going to be where we fight our yellow musk creeper. And yes, the fact that AV integrates well with Troubles on Tari, I think is extremely intentional. I think that's pretty obvious to everyone. I will say I kind of wish that they had a more implicit option for taking people from the beginner box to the Abomination Vaults. Something a little bit more implicit, a little bit more like, this is how you do it. These are the encounters that you ignore in the beginning of Abomination Vaults that make it happen. Kind of wish they had done that, but I have a long list of things that I would have liked to have been done. And quite often, every time I make a complaint or I talk about something like that, Paizo comes out a week or two later and goes, oh, here's this thing that we've been working on quietly for like the last month or two. The last year. And if you want to know how often that happened, you can kind of check through my old Twitter feed. The party are finishing floor 2 at level 4. Okay, yeah. Well, they'd be running through the second floor? That's the Morlocks, isn't it? If I remember right. Ending with was them saving the Osprey Thieves. That was a fun encounter. I had my players go through that. They saved the thieves as well, and they managed to get some context out to Otari because of that. The biggest motivator for me is all the creatures they've introduced to Pathfinder 2. Since the adventure's release, I like toys, but also when one of your players is a formateur, I feel like it's a service to not have some gnarly monster mystery for it to pull up. Yes! Particularly with... I will recommend the Battlezoo Beastry, because they have some really weird creatures in there that you can really have play around with. And we're just gonna put in some bushes in here. I would say the Battlezoo stuff is strange and possibly unusual. Like, I will quite openly say when it comes to third-party products, I use, for monsters in particular, I use Paizo Beastries, Battlezoo Beastry, and the Botanical one. And as much as I might be shot for saying this, I don't have a lot of interest in their Year of Monster Ancestries. Like, they come out with some trippy ideas, but... I just kind of want to see more creatures. Like, more monsters for the toolbox. As a GM, I don't like having single monster encounters. I like to mix it up with like 2 or 3 different monsters. At the very least. Me and Kill Croto have actually had this conversation before, where there are far too few encounters where there is a caster or two in the mix. And we don't mean as the actual boss, we mean as like a minion, someone to like benefit and bolster. Some are interesting though. Seeing Oni got me to push my homebrew out. Yeah, no, look. We have the Bovians coming in, Sinclair's Almanac, and seeing Paizo announce their Minotaurs, we're just like, we really need to get this out the door quickly, don't we? Thankfully, though, the Almanac is in layout now, so hopefully we can add the PDF out to people soon. Unfortunately, it is not in my wheelhouse. That one there, and now I want... Do we have lilies? We do have lilies. Can't wait to see both takes though. It's great seeing people's approaches to the same idea. Yeah. I think... I don't know what Paizo is doing. I said this on the Sinclair's Discord. It's like, I don't know what Paizo is doing with their Minotaurs. But I know we have worked extremely hard over at Sinclair's to make sure that our Bovians are something that feels very unique. Or at least we've tried really hard. I just hope it lands. But it has been an absolutely gratifying experience to work at Sinclair's as the lead game designer. I'm phenomenally lucky, and I have realized that. But there are things that I'm excited about this Almanac that I don't think they haven't been showed off in any of the previews yet, so I'm a little bit nervous to see how they're taken. Like I did my own battle wizard I did an archetype battle wizard and I did a subclass for the wizard as well. And I'm kind of curious to see how people are going to take them. But people seem to have liked the teamwork feats that I wrote up, so... If Osiris is still in the chat, he helped me out with those. And now I want some vines. Want to shrink it down a bit though. This will be more for a wall. Yeah, that's something, the water animation is something that comes built in with Dungeon Draft. If you export the file as a WebP file, it sticks around. Having a little bit of disconnect is good for the soul. I do wish these were slightly darker. That's fine, we'll position them up a little bit later. I don't want to have it sink in a little bit, but if it's gonna happen. Because what I'm planning here with the vines up the cliff is that I want them to be an obvious option for the players to use for climbing, but I also want them to be an environmental hazard. So there'll be the opportunity for the vines to actually break. When am I ever going to run this? I don't know. Before we quit tonight / this morning, I'll probably show you something else that I've been working on, which is kind of in the whole Superdungeon-esque thing. Now we need the terrain brush, terrain moss. You're not gonna work in the area. Oh, you're not gonna work for me. That. Okay, so if I had it enabled to be going in the background there, I see. But we can turn that off, so that'll work better for that in the long run. Well, in light of that, oh, that's trippy. Didn't know I could do that. Okay, that's something I'll use later. So we'll go back to our object tool. Snap. Because I kind of want to present the idea that despite the dirt and mud, things have actually continued to grow. And for those of you who are running Abomination Vaults, this is something that you'll run into the further down you get. Particularly when you get to the garden level. Starting to look like a Zelda Great Fairy Pond? Well, I mean, I'm not opposed. I'm mostly putting a lot more effort into the decoration here because I know this is going to be like a mid-boss encounter. So I want it to look good. Yeah! Speaking of, however, I need to get the mushrooms out. That's a little bit too bright of a yellow for what I'm after. Hello. Orcs are just annoying unless she's changed my mind. I don't know who was it on Twitter, but they were like, I find it disturbing the things that people are putting the Orcs through. And it's like, I can kind of understand that. Like, they're annoying, but they're not, hey, listen, hey, listen. They're not that level yet. And I don't think they'll ever be. Leaves. That's a... Yeah. Christina Villa, who voiced Hetsu. See what you're all doing. I thought some of the, like, I laughed when some of, like, the crucifixion stuff was going around for the Koroks, and then I just, like, thought about it for a couple of moments, and I was like, this is getting out of hand. If I ever played Investigator with those quest marker feats, I would obviously it as my very familiar going, hey, listen. Oh, what's the Investigator feat called? That's interesting. Just completely dig into that. Oh, so part of why I'm doing this is so I can get better at using Dungeon Drop. Nintendo knew what they were doing when they decided to make an entire game around the ability to make a Rube Goldberg machine. I mean, yeah, look, let's be fair on that one. I just don't think they were expecting what people would do with the Koroks. Beyblades, sure, I've seen the Beyblade build, I thought it was cool. Someone will commit blasphemy. This is an acceptable cost. Well, what was it? Someone within 24 hours built a giant robot with a dick that spit fire? I thought that was kind of wild. They also had that meaning. Yeah, no, they absolutely did. It's like we have a more Zelda has a more mature audience. We can do more with this. It's fine. It's fine, right? People aren't going to get weird with this. Just kind of thinking, is that it? I don't want to overdo it. I hope this doesn't awaken anything in me. Water. What comes up? That's what I was after. Water circles, really? Okay. I just kind of want to give the feeling that there's things moving in the water. Once again, going back to that whole visual storytelling. But I think that's done. I think that's it. I feel like that looks good. Because I'll be the first to say I'm not at the level of cartography that a lot of others are. Thank you, Ninja. That is absolutely what I was trying to do. Because when you present this to the players, I'll actually show you rather than talk about it. Or I will talk about it, but we want to call this room 5 mid boss, because I'll make a proper name for it later. Room 5. There we go. Hello, Foundry. And we import our new map. I will say there's the option within Dungeon Draft to make it look like it's nighttime there. I just prefer to do it in Foundry because it allows me to mess around with the lighting a little bit better. Now we pull up the walls. Want that to go to there. Alright, so visual storytelling. So in the ranged ambush here, our little tester guy here can see everything up here. These guys should be like invisible and stuff. But he can see everything. Now, what you should do, or what I would do, I did that wrong. Now, if we reset, lighting, got him where it is. Let's see if we can bring our tester back in. Now, ideally, if you did the, if you came back through and this was a fresh player or a fresh character, actually, we might be able to do that. Test 2. Oh, no, it's shared for all players. You can fuck around with that. But the idea here is that this would all be darkness for me. The players would come into this room, they wouldn't be able to see past the cliff. So as far as they're concerned, as they come in, they wouldn't be able to see past it. Now, this is when we go back to our bid boss room. I wouldn't put the terrain lines in there for here. Because I want them to be able to see the yellow muskrat. I want it to be big, I want it to be obvious, I want them to see it. And for some reason, there we go. Might actually turn that down to large now. Because I want the players to be able to see it, I want them to be able to target it, I want them to know that it's there and it's a threat. Now, speaking of... the idea for this is that it's a severe encounter. So, with our mid-boss already decided with this guy, all we need are thralls. And apparently, in order to balance out the encounter, I can have up to 3 of the yellow musk thralls. One, two, three. That in and of itself is a severe encounter. However, if you were to actually play this out as players or GMs, this would pretty much just be something of a boring slug. So instead, first things first, we double check our boss creature. It has a 10-foot reach. It can spray up to a 30-foot as a 2-action activity. Or a 15-foot cone. So it can hit to about there, but only as a line. So, what you can do in situations like this when you want it to be a little bit more interesting is instead of having it sit as is and the players have to climb up to attack, you can do something of a wave thing. Where every time they kill off a Thrall, a new one turns up. So at the end of initiative, you replace them. Now, I have here 3 for the bottom level, and then 3 for the top level. The idea being, these top ones here will not move until the players actually breach the cliff. When they're up here, then these Thralls will attack. But until then, it'll just be these 3. And as they're making their way through, as they kill each one, at the end of the initiative, I will have them replaced by another. To give that tension, to give that feeling of, okay, so this is absolutely something that's being attacked and we're being assaulted. The kind of horde aspect of zombies without actually having a proper horde. But as soon as they get to the top of the cliff, that stops. Because this thing has a 10-foot reach, it can pretty much reach anything. Pretty much it can reach anything. there's a couple of places where it wouldn't be able to. Otherwise, however, I believe that's done. We did not make as much progress on the Superdungeon as I was hoping, but that's fine. We got to talk RPGs and stuff like that. But seriously though, hey, so if you want me to do streams where I talk about other TTRPGs, kind of a vague showcasing and vague showcasing of other TTRPGs, kind of showing them off, seeing what's actually possible and what's potential, I'm happy to do that. So if you want me to add another stream to the schedule, I can do that. So just let me know, yeah, you know, poke me on Twitter or Blue Sky or whatever social media you find me on and just say, hey, no, you should do that stream, do that thing. Or hell, hit me up on the Discord. That's also a thing that we can do. I am pretty flexible, and I'm trying to do my best to take this streaming / content creation thing a lot more seriously. Hopefully, you'll start seeing other content accelerating our platforms. I'm hoping to extend out to TikTok and start doing YouTube Shorts very soon. I'm starting to get scripts together for video content as well. I'm just not sure how would be the best way to present them. Otherwise, thanks for joining for this kind of hybrid stream between building a Superdungeon and talking about this hobby that I love so much. Thanks again to Vec the Goblin for the raid. Super appreciate it, man, especially for hanging out and having a bit of a chat for a while. Otherwise, this has been Tabletop Obscura presents Let's Build Superdungeon for Pathfinder 2nd Edition by Paizo Publishing. Music is by Marco Gelfi, as always, because I absolutely fucking love their music. Otherwise, I hope you have a good day, good night, a good week, no matter where you are in the world. We will be back tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time for Hoist the Colors, our homebrew pirate-themed campaign. And then again on Sunday for Abomination Vaults at 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Other than that, I'll talk to you later. And remember, as always, we are the storytellers. Good night, everyone. Bye!